it's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story Podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. I'm excited as we continue in this amazing series of women leaders in technology to introduce you to a woman who has taken opportunity by storm. And you're going to see what she has to say about that. Bekah Weigel graduated from the Flatiron School of Software Engineering program in May of 2019. And since then has spent time as a front-end developer. She started Virtual Coffee Developer Community and has continued to mom her 4 kids. She currently co-hosts Virtual Coffee Podcast, tries to work on her postpartum wellness, which I truly love as a true project, lifting heavy things in her free time. In 2022, yes, that is this year, she officially joined DevRel World as the technical community building for DeepGram. So, Bekah, you are a woman who was confronted with some real stuff as you graduated, ready to jump into programming. So give us a little bit of your background. You're a mom, you're a developer, you're a woman who meets opportunity and takes opportunity by storm, which is what I love about you.
Oh, thank you. And thanks for having me today. I'm really happy to be here. My journey is not the traditional journey into tech. And so I taught college English for about 10 years before coming into tech. And then after going through a trauma, I really fell in love with coding. And it really helped me to discover a new side of myself, get inspired again, and to be able to make progress in my life. And as I was doing that, I went through boot camp. I got a full scholarship to Flatiron School. I graduated.
Woohoo, let's congratulate you for that, because that full scholarships are nothing to just browse through.
Thank you. And so once I finished, I found a job immediately, which is huge. Pretty much unheard of.
Huge.
I was working as a contractor, which suited my lifestyle. And it was a very unique position where I was still getting mentorship. I was still growing. And just as I felt like we were hitting our stride, the pandemic hit and we lost our work. And so I found myself at home with 4 kids because school shut down. They said, well, school's going to be shut down for 3 weeks, but then we'll be back. And we never went back.
Right. 3 weeks turns into 3 months very fast during that time.
Yeah, it absolutely did. And at the time, my husband was working 2 jobs. He's also a programmer and he was working a full-time position, but transitioning into a startup. So he would go work at his day job and then pretty much straight to working at the startup. And so I found myself trying to do school at home with 4 kids at various levels and interviewing for new positions. And I never really had to interview for a position before because with my contracting position, we had a conversation and it made sense for both of us to move forward. And that was it. So I was really faced with this new challenge of landing interviews and determining what my worth was, because I felt that there were a lot of people challenging that in those interviews. And there are also a lot of interviews that I would show up for and they said, you know what, sorry, they just gave us a notice that we're on a hiring freeze. So I was continually investing time into these interviews and prepping for them, along with, navigating a global pandemic
and teaching 4 kids to 4 different grade levels in your spare time.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just found that I was crying every single night. I can't do this, but you just have to do it, And then it finally clicked for me. I felt that, as I had navigated through my trauma, one of the things that was very important was you might feel like you're the only one with these feelings, but it doesn't matter what the experience, somebody else is feeling the same thing. And you never want to be isolated when you're going through something like that. And so it's important to find a community of people that you can talk to and you can share with. And so I put out a tweet, does anybody want to meet for virtual coffee? And it started as a once a week meetup. Now we meet up 2 or 3 times a week. Plus we have sub communities, and we're going into our 3rd year. So we just keep going.
So, now listeners, so you get why I said why one of the things I adore about Bekah is, how she meets and steps into opportunity, because we all lived through, the spring and summer of 2020, like waiting for the world to come back. That didn't come back so fast. And for those parents with kids, it was additionally tough. Parents of children, especially young school-age children, actually, I was going to say kids of all ages, because all of them were missing out, but they all needed different things from parents. And here you were embarking on a new career, a new opportunity that you were excited about, that was kind of the door was slammed shut on you, or I'd say the garage door was closed very quickly. And so what prompted you? Where did the idea for virtual coffee come from? It's like, where did this idea to start pulling people in the tech world or developers together?
Well, when I started my coding journey, I was on Twitter a lot. And so I was having conversations with other people, and I had come from academia where there wasn't much of a community. And one of the things I appreciated the most about being in the tech world is that people were so interested in cheering you on as you were going through that journey. So I was just tweeting all of the things that I was experiencing. And I had gained a substantial following of people in tech. And I started a blog, and I was blogging about my experience and all of the things that I was going through. And so I just started making real friendships through that space. And knowing that there were other people out there that were willing to share their time and their experience with me in that first virtual coffee, and then hearing other people say like, hey, what about my time zone? Can you accommodate me? And I was like, there were days where I was doing like double sessions of virtual coffee to make sure that I could include more people. And so, for me, it was just about, we were kind of going through a global trauma with the pandemic. None of us were prepared for this or had any idea how to navigate it. And so why not navigate that together and work through this in a way that allows us to support each other and, hopefully make it out stronger on the other end.
And what are some of the things you've seen from the people showing up? Like, who showed up at the beginning and who has stayed with us and why? I know I just stacked 3 questions on you. Let's start with, who did you see showing up the beginning?
It was such a variety of people. There were some moms that were showing up, and I found that the pandemic has definitely been probably the hardest on moms in terms of lost opportunities, needing to leave the workforce to stay home and educate their kids and do those kinds of things. So we've seen a lot of moms come and go. But there were people at all different stages of the coding journey. So we had people that were, CEOs of companies that were showing up, and we had people who had been learning to code for 2 days show up. And so one of the things I love most about virtual coffee is such a diverse group of people at different stages of the coding journey, but all there to support each other. So it doesn't feel like anybody is less important than anyone else in the community.
So how do people hear about it?
Word of mouth, really?
So you're not marketing it, you're not advertising it. I mean, how many people are showing up? Because let's be real, her success story, we've gotten some traction over the close to 5 years we've been airing. And, this is not a group of 10 or 20 people.
Right. Yeah. So initially, I was just putting out a tweet saying, who wants to come to virtual coffee? And then I was DMing everyone links to Zoom. And then that was not sustainable. And so we signed up for a service that allowed us to put virtual coffee on there. We've since left them because they didn't really feel our needs anymore, but we have a website now. We have a Twitter account. We have a newsletter and a podcast and, all of these different modes of communication. And so I think that, people have heard about us through that, through others sharing their story. I have actually been in job interviews where the interviewers have told me like, hey, we interviewed somebody else from Virtual Coffee and they mentioned their experience there. And I thought, oh, that's so fun that, people are sharing it in that way. And so right now we are on a limited new membership. So all of our active volunteers have invites that they can give out to people that they know who might be interested in participating as part of Virtual Coffee. And for us, we decided to limit membership because we have a really close-knit group of people. And so one of the ways we like to describe Virtual Coffee is as an intimate community. So where the people, where you're not walking into a huge room of strangers. And so to do that, we have to make sure that we support our active volunteers, and that we don't burn them out, that we don't burn ourselves out. This is not a full-time job for anyone, although I feel like it probably could be. And it's just about, preserving that atmosphere. And so new membership is coming in that way. And we're working on a way to create a waiting list for new folks that might want to join as well. And as we continue to find ways to support and engage our members and what they're interested in.
So have you tracked people? Like what types of results or connections have people made? And of course, listeners, just so you know, these are not the questions I prepped Bekah with.
So it's totally fine. I always like to say that your network is your network's network, right? And so we saw so many people.
Yeah.
We saw so many people who were losing jobs or impacted during the pandemic. And one of the things that we've seen come out of this is, of course, friendships, support, navigating through really challenging life situations, but also that support that's helped people to land new jobs or to recognize that they're in a toxic workspace and to find a way for them to grow and find a new and supportive way. And so I think that all of us are growing in our skills, in our empathy and understanding of other people, and many of us through this career journey as well.
And so where do you see the future of Virtual Coffee going? What can it look like?
I think that we can continue to do more things and find new ways to support our members. And so we have some really cool things in place that we already do. We do things like monthly challenges, and I would love to find ways to up the monthly challenges a little bit to provide more support for our members and engage them in ways that are meaningful to them. So, one of the ways would be to find sponsorships for those monthly challenges so we can provide new things for our members. But I could see the future of Virtual Coffee expanding beyond what we are doing in the tech industry. And so, I'm a writer as well. Maybe there's Virtual Coffee Writers Group, and having different communities, but running in the same way that we do with our processes, our volunteers, and being able to support folks at all levels of whatever career journey or not career journey that they're on, and grow in that way where they can find a safe space and have these intimate conversations with each other that allows everybody to feel supported and to grow.
And I must say it is an amazing vision. Now, are you running it as a business? Is it a side project? Where do you fit in?
So the interesting thing about Virtual Coffee is I never meant to start it. It just kind of happened and I kept going with it. So it wasn't like I spent all of this time developing this business model. A lot of it has been going along with what we see the needs of our members are. And so we're to the point where we're accepting sponsorships for things right now, whether that's for our events or on a monthly basis. And this has allowed us to do way more with our members. So if there's ever a point where I feel like I could do virtual coffee full time, it's something that I would love to do. But I think that continuing with all of the things that we're doing right now, finding those sponsorships, finding paths of making those connections that allow us to get to that point is where we are now. So it's definitely something that's on my mind. I'm one of the core maintainers and a community maintainer, which means that I'm making both business decisions and day-to-day community decisions on how to continue to support our organization and to find paths for that strategy.
I love it. So for our listeners, how could they connect to you, Bekah? How could they connect to Virtual Coffee? Because I'm sure with this Women Leaders in Technology series that we're going to be expanding with some new listeners here that would say like, oh, that sounds so interesting. I'd love to learn more.
You can always check out our website, which is virtualcoffee.io. I am always on Twitter. I am Bekah HW everywhere, and my name is spelled kind of hard. It's BEKAH and then another H and then a W. So you can find me on Twitter. I'm also on LinkedIn, which I shared my socials. So I think that you'll share that with this episode. And you can always email me. So I'm Bekah, again, with a KAH at virtualcoffee.io. And I love meeting new people and, sharing the stories of what we're doing.
And listeners, don't panic. All these links are in the show notes below, including the proper spelling of Bekah's name. So when you reach out to her, you can address her correctly. So final question, how are the kids? Are they back at school these days? Or has life settled into a routine?
I think it settled into a routine as much as it can with 4 kids, and they are all back at school. There were some bumps getting there this year. I think a couple weeks before the school started, one of the transformers blew at the school. So they had no power and they had to start a week late, but now everybody is there, and it's great to have some quiet time in the house to really focus on getting some work done.
I love it. I love it. And I so often ask this question of what surprised you in this journey, but I think so many of us could answer that.
Everything.
I remember when we were talking previously, it's like, what surprised you? It's like, yeah, everything.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that people kept showing up, I honestly thought that we would get through the summer and then there would be no more virtual coffee. And, we've done 3 summers now. And, when we did a big event the first year in October, it's called Hacktoberfest. It's an open source contributions for the month. And we supported all of our members through it. And everyone was so excited and they were so proud of what they did. And that was really the moment that I felt like, oh, this is a thing. We're going to keep going with this because everybody is so invested in what we're doing and we're invested in supporting them. So that's the moment where I felt like this is really something special.
Well, Bekah, thank you for joining me here today on Her Success Story and being such an amazing, amazing interview as part of the Women Leaders in Tech series.
Thank you so much for having me.
And listeners, please make sure to check out the entire series, some here on Her Success Story and some on our Slater Success Live show on LinkedIn that you can definitely find the resources there or in our newsletter on our website. So feel free, any questions. If you can't resource something, don't stay in stock ever. Shoot myself an email, shoot me an email, ivy@slatersuccesscoaching.com. We're here to help you grow, flourish, and reach your next destination in your careers and your businesses. So, Bekah, thanks again for joining me, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.